All right, let's shift gears a little bit because the personal user manual, I think, is a great thing to do before you do a team agreement. Because to your point, Lillian, it helps people to see everybody's different. But you can use it then as a basis for team agreements. So when you think about a team agreement, it's taking the personal user manual and kind of amping it up a little bit. And it's from the team perspective. These have to be team decisions. So one thing I find that can make team agreements difficult is, one, if a manager is saying, here's how we're going to work, and I want you all to agree to it. That's not a team agreement. That's why some people call them team charters, because you form a charter, you work together to form a charter. And somebody telling you, here's how we work, the team hasn't agreed to it, me signing off on it doesn't mean anything. The other piece of this is somewhat to what Lillian's running into. This is a compromise. This is what we as a team are agreeing to do. These should be living documents. So when you first do a team agreement, this is something that, okay, here's what we're going to do. I usually recommend revisiting within at least a month to see how's the initial kind of agreements working. All right, we said that we're going to use calendar. We want everybody to search calendars before they send an email about meeting times. How's that working? What issues are you running into? Is it working for everybody? Is it not? Let's talk about that. And then you can get to a point where I recommend visiting it once a quarter. So after you do the first one, come back within a couple of weeks, about a month. How's this working? Let's have a conversation about it. And then it's something that you can revisit. Is there something that's changed in the team? You got somebody new on the team. When you're bringing in somebody new, you don't just tell them, here's how we work. You have a conversation about it. Let's talk about this. I'd love for you to see our team agreement and then talk about what things might you have suggestions for, or what really doesn't work for you. And let's talk about that. So one example I like to give, we used to do these before project teams, and they're great if you have a project team, especially if they're going to be working together for a while. I like IMs. I don't like to work through email. The entire team wanted to work via email. I was the only one who wanted to use WebEx chat for the bulk of our conversations back and forth, because I just don't like to use email for that. So that was my compromise. But then I asked, if we're going to use email, I do have some requests. We use a shared project file. We use shared documents. The bulk of the work happens there, and you link to it from your email, and you are very careful with your reply alls, and you don't just send an email that says thank you. So I asked for a compromise because I know I prefer to work in IMs, but I also know that I was in the minority. So here's where we need to compromise. And Lillian, this is where an external facilitator comes in handy. I was comfortable doing it with the project team because I was one of the people leading the project team. And I knew that if I wanted it to be successful, I could not put my foot down and say, we're all going to use IM. But if you have an external facilitator, they are somebody, even if they're from a different team, they're somebody who can help you work through some of those, because you can get spun up. I don't like to do this. I like to do that. So we just walk through a user manual. I'd love for you to think through and either raise your hand or just call it out or chat it in. What might be some of the topics or questions that you might have and ask the team to make an agreement on?
I would say team meetings, how, like, what works for people. So how often, how do you want to meet? Because we're hybrid right now. So in person or remote. And are there some things better in person and some types of meetings that work better remote?
Yeah, I like that, especially for hybrid.
And to add on that one, how long should these meetings last? In a previous organization, we all made an agreement that we would never do full 60 minutes. They would be 50 to 55 minutes.
They're great thing to have a conversation about.
Now, did we stick with that and did it actually work? No. But we kept coming back to, we all agreed to this, and like, why is Jason the only one who schedules a 50-minute meeting? Everybody else
And
is
that's the
like,
piece about a team agreement. If you have it, it's a living document, you put it somewhere in a box or Dropbox or wherever, and then you can go back to it. So you've got something. It's not that, hey, we had a conversation, but nobody remembers what that conversation was. No, here's what we agreed to. And it's a little bit easier than me saying, well, Jason, why do you, I can go team agreement. What else? So meetings, conduct at meetings. That's another good one. Webcams on or off. We always had conversations about participation, using chat. We always had options. So some people weren't as comfortable using chat in terms of facilitating using chat. And we asked, you need to give people options, because if you have a meeting with 15 people in it, not everybody's going to be able to share vocally. Some people also might want to share via chat. So Lily's question is, we're struggling on what agreement means. Do the yays have it, or must it be a consensus, or must all agree?
Yeah, no, it's really kind of sort of interesting because this idea of a personal user manuals and team agreements, is this something new, or is this something that's been around for a while?
They've been around for a while. I've been using them since I went remote in 2008. I think they were around before then. So they're not new, but they've traditionally been in remote teams and distributed teams. And now that more people are going remote, you're seeing this more and more. So Barbara would do a vote. Any other votes on what agreement means?
I would try and solicit some kind of compromise before you made a hard decision. If someone, if the discussion is, well, let's have our regular meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays, and someone says, well, I can't make Tuesdays because I have to go to line dancing or something. I would say, well, instead of 10, would 10:30 work, or is it another day of the week? I wouldn't just out and out say, well, you don't have a choice. It's 10:30, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
would
and
search
this is where an
compromise.
external facilitator really helps.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
having that. That's why it's tough, especially if you're a team that is so invested in this. It makes it nice. But I'm very similar to Barbara. It's like, all right, well, let's see how many. And if it's, one or two holdouts, let's have a conversation about that. Is there an opportunity for compromise? You're never going to get everybody to agree, almost never. Because to your point you made earlier, Lillian, we are all different. So it's going to have to be a compromise. I usually go with majority rules. We try it out. Let's try it for a couple of weeks and a month, and then come back and see how it's working.
Yeah, that's been like a 3-meeting thing so far, is how many votes have to be. Is it the ayes have it? And so, yeah, is it a quorum? How many people had to be at the meeting? There's 10 of us. Do all 10 of us have to be at the meeting in order to vote on things like what time the meetings are? I'm finding too that people tend to want to be sure they are there, but they don't care who else is there, right? So as long as I'm there, the vote counts. And that was going to be kind of my question to Barbara is, so when you take a vote, has everybody agreed that the ayes will have it? Or do we say we maybe want to pose some questions? And external facilitator is sounding better and better all the time.
I come from a totally different world. A lot of what we've talked about is something that you just typically do when you have like a new board of directors or invite new members. You explain to them, this is what we do and how we do the process. I've never seen it done formally. I really like the idea. And basically, it depends upon the nature of the organization. But in my world, the people that take the time to show up at the meeting and participate are the ones that get to make the decisions. And yes, some people have conflicts and they can't participate, but we can't always run our lives based upon the exceptions. So it's the people that actually attend the meetings are the ones that get to vote. And I know that's not good for the people that just can't attend, but they, like you said, 3 meetings. I mean, how long does it take to make some basic decisions? And I expect, Shannon, that we'll be getting some kind of template with questions to use to guide us on what we need to decide.
Yeah. So one of the things, so yes, you're going to get that. Lillian, one of the things that I recommend is doing a mural or a Miro board prior and have everybody collaborate. So it goes back to Arit's point about see if each person clarifies. So you can have the questions up on a mural or Miro board or any other, whiteboard, have people share their insights and thoughts, and then you can come together. So then you can take a look at it and say, here's the things we all thumbs up. We're all going to be Tuesdays at 10. Here are the sticking points. And then can you also give people an opportunity, because they can't be at that meeting, can they share their thoughts? Here's what we're going to vote on. Cast your votes. If they can cast them before or asynchronously, that takes that power away. Because that way you've got the people that are, again, I'm going to be there. I don't care if anybody else is there because I want my voice heard. Let's level the playing field and take it offline using Miro, whiteboard, whatever whiteboard option you have. All right, other thoughts on team agreements. So I'll share, here's some that I've used in the past. We've talked about communication, core hours, especially if you're distributed. So what are the core hours we're going to work synchronously? Meaning, here's the times when you can schedule meetings. Here's when you can expect me to respond quickly to emails. This is great if you're all across different time zones. How are we going to give each other feedback? How do we know what everybody's working on? What kind of information do we need to share? If your organization doesn't have a standard shared drive, what is your shared drive? Where do you use it? We had 4. So we had to pick one as a team. We had 4 different places we could share information. So people were sharing it here, there, here. Let's pick the one. Here's another one where, we talked about in different buckets. So what types of information do we need to share with each other? What does success look like for the team? Getting really clear about that. What tools are we going to use and when for communication? One of the ones I like to use, how will we ensure all team members are included during meetings? That goes back to making sure that everybody has an opportunity to have a voice and not just the people who like to talk all the time. We will use chat. We will turn webcams on or off. We'll use captioning. You can continue on and on. If you're hybrid or distributed, connection is also a really great one. How are we going to stay together as a team? If we're hybrid and we're all local, do we want to agree to meet and say maybe once a month, do something like a volunteer activity or have lunch? If you're not all in the same location, how are we going to all be able to do that? We don't want just everybody that's in one location to get together and forget about the others. So again, these are just some examples of how you can do it. There is no right, there is no wrong.